Pozdrav svim fanovima, članovima i pratiteljima CroCube-a. Danas nam se u podcastu priključila gošća iz Europske svemirske agencije Joana. Joana, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself to viewers?
Thank you very much, Carol, for the invitation and for the little introduction in Croatian. So for the viewers, my name is Joana Kamenovu, and I'm currently a commercializations officer at the European Space Agency. Originally, I'm Bulgarian, but at the moment I'm based and I'm working in the UK.
Let's start with ESA. What is it that you do at ESA, and what does ESA generally do?
So ESA is our European Space Agency, so the European version of NASA. We have some work to do to make it a little bit flashier and more trendy for our generations. But ESA in general, it's a space agency governed by a number of European member states. And it's one of the very few space agencies that tackles all the domains of space. So you have all the typical domain from launchers to building satellites to getting the data from the satellites, such as Earth observation. And of course, you have some more administrative work, such as procurement, growing European industry, and very recently a dedicated area on commercialization. So I'm based in this area of commercialization, and this is recognizing that we have to work across the technologies of space, but also bringing a little bit more business acumen into the agency and in Europe. So in a nutshell, again, we tackle all the technical domains from science to launchers, but now we are also focusing quite a lot on the business side and growing the European space industry.
We'll get back on the commercialization, but the European NASA sounds great. How does one get a job at ESA? What are the minimal requirements?
Yeah, what is the minimum requirements? So there are a few requirements that for sure still have to be fulfilled. So one of the big things is that the European Space Agency is still looking kind of at engineering degrees and also a master's level. So these are some of the points that we hope will get a bit more relaxed in the future. But actually beyond engineering, now there are a lot of positions opened on different domains. So you don't have to necessarily be an engineer to pursue a career there. So you might work in business administration or in public policy, or you can work in graphic design, marketing, or contractual work. So really you can land at ESA from many different ways. There are some standard ways to get into the sector, and this is going for a traineeship, which is called the Young Graduate Trainee. So this is where after your education, you can have a taster, is ESA for me or not? And this is open to the member states, but also to cooperating states such as Croatia. So this is where it's really nice to kind of dip your feet into space. There are other opportunities such as the junior professionals, so a little bit more established than the young graduate trainee, but still a taster session of whether this is for you. In my case, for example, I didn't follow any of the engineering paths. So I come from a background of politics and European studies, and I found my way in a very roundabout way into the sector. I didn't follow a traditional path. So really, this is to say that, yes, any background can do it. It doesn't have to be engineering, and it doesn't have to be that you're actually focused on space from the very beginning. In fact, if you come from another sector, it's where the most benefits are in these synergetic cross-sectoral experiences.
So for the people from Croatia, they can work at ESA.
So yes, they can work at ESA and start for example, as a trainee. And beyond the position of ESA staff, there are also positions as contractors, and there they can experience also different roles within the agency.
So speaking of the possibilities that ESA offers, ESA is known for supporting space startups. What value do they have? Why are they important to ESA, and should they be important to let's say, the whole nations? Should nations support them?
Absolutely. I mean, startups, not only in space, but in any sectors, are the most disrupting companies, the companies that are tackling some problems that no one else is really brave enough to tackle. A little bit of a disruption, a lot of innovation, and also growth. So especially in the space domain, these are some of the companies that we really like to support. We have a few established prime companies such as Airbus and Thales, quite big ones. But the startups are the ones that find their niche and also drive economic growth and innovation. We see a lot of them in many different areas. I work in the topic of business incubation, so really the venture creation, the startup creation, and the growth of these startups. And we have now supported over 1,200 startups. So this is super exciting because we see all the topics that the startups are tackling and are not yet tackled by other companies. And this is both in the upstream domain, like propulsion technology, various last mile delivery operations in space, but also in the downstream domain, topics such as carbon monitoring, sustainable finance, so things that are super exciting that not many companies are yet looking at.
So what number of startups actually survives? We know in IT a lot of startups just fail. Do the startups in space industry have better odds, or are they similar?
So we have, we do our survey usually across the 1,200 startups that we have supported through the ESA business incubation centers. And suspiciously, we have a very high survival rate. So we have around 80% of survival rate, which I think we should account for some margin of error there, but it is quite a high rate compared to generally to startups. So this means a little bit two things. That first, we have quite high criteria to actually be accepted in one of these programs, and then therefore the startups survive later on. Or that ESA has to become a little bit more risk-driven, so we should accept a little bit more risk and failure for the startups, which is probably the case, but quite difficult sometimes for an organization that is driven also a little bit by national and government interests. But overall, quite a high survival rate, maybe a little bit of margin to lower it down and to see even more exciting applications in the future.
That here is great, and to me, at least, it seems that there is money in the space industry. How important is the space industry for? Let's use the example of a nation again.
So yes, there is definitely money, and I think just to elaborate on this point, there is money first in the venture creation, in the incubation, but this is only the first step. There are various ESA programs or space programs that these companies can later on apply, and of course we have the element of private investment. So with the right ideas, there is a lot that can be done. And the space economy it's really critical for any nation, whether this is big or small. I was attending a webinar the other day by Euroconsult, and they were sharing some of their latest statistics, and a few kind of conclusions kind of were brought home. So the space industry globally is valued on in European terms is valued on $70 billion. But this is the core space industry, so the launchers, the satellites, the manufacturing, the ground stations. But what this 70 billion enables, it enables another $350 billion of applications underneath this. So I think this is quite telling for any nation that any investment in the upstream domain, it's actually quite a lot of investment in other sectors that would be enabled by this. So, for example, if you think Earth observation, you can think about the value that this data and information brings down to the ground, let's say for agriculture or emergency services, smart cities. If you think about telecommunications, You can think about all the remote areas that you can connect. You can think about the autonomous cars and all the value that is unlocked in the automotive industry. So really any investment in space can bring quite a lot of value in the downstream sectors as well. So in a way, a nation would not only be growing their space sector, which is actually one of the most exciting and capturing the imagination, but also all the underpinning sectors of the economy. So I would say very, very critical. Of course, I am a little bit biased, but it is one of the coolest sectors out there.
On that note, let's talk about our project, so CroCube. Do you think it has future, and could it do great things, as you mentioned, for Croatia also? Or is it too small of a satellite to do it?
No, definitely. I mean, you have to start with the project, and you have to start with launching a satellite. So I think this is a great future and a great step to take, because in this pathway you would basically inspire, capture the imagination, and also develop the knowledge of multiple stakeholders and generations along the line, right? You could have a launch with a school observing this and getting their inspirations and wanting to be the next astronaut or engineer, all the way to the institutes that would interpret the data, covering the whole of Croatia, and inspiring everyone else that want to do something with this data and to observe the developments. So really, it's not small actually, it's a very big task, right? To make it happen and to drive the results, to raise the awareness around this. So everyone can catch a little bit of the space virus for the future and be part of it.
Yes, let's close this interview. So, do you have any words for the viewers of this podcast, or maybe someone who wants to work at ESA?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I would say if you want to do it, just go for it. Don't overthink it that you don't know too much about space, or you don't have the background. There are many opportunities out there, and many of them are actually designed for people to get this space background. So in a way, the more diverse your background is, the more welcome you are to join the agency. And we recently got the announcement from our Director General that only this year alone, we would be hiring around 400 people. So there is no better place no better place and time than now. 400 people, it's quite exciting. So just go for it. Personally, if you need any tips, you can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and I can do my best to answer any questions on this.
Thank you very much, Joana.
Thank you, Carlo.
Evo, dragi gledatelji, bilo je to sve u današnjem podcastu s Joanom. Pozivam vas još jednom da se pretplatite i da nas zapratite na društvenim mrežama, te da podržite projekt na CroCube. Hvala i doviđenja.